Coming up on CHGO Cubs, Jed Hoyer gets a guy named Cash for Canario, plus several Cactus League debuts that you might want to point out, and a closer look at first base. Plus, we talked to a prospect in the Cubs organization who wouldn't mind being the next Chipper Jones. CHGO Cubs next.
I also wouldn't mind being the next Chipper.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. It is Tuesday, February 25th. It is sunny. It is, dare I say, spring-like in the Windy City today. It's beautiful. Of course, it's beautiful in Arizona where the Cubs are at. And we're ready to talk a little Cubs baseball with you as we get excited. Man, we are closing in on opening day in Japan. Let me tell you, that is getting closer and closer than ever before. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo with you. Sean Anderson, running the ones and twos. Our guys say there's a little bad audio.
I'm working on it right now. We're live as we're...
guys. We're working on it. Anyways, I won't say anything too exciting until we get everybody ready.
Yeah.
You want? Should I talk about my lunch? What I had for lunch a couple days ago? Should I talk about grilled cheese?
Let me tell you about the sandwich I made my lady this morning. She texted me on her way to work, and she was like, "You made the best sandwich."
The best sandwich you've ever had.
It was so good that she texted me.
Really?
Like, right.
What was on the sandwich?
It was an egg, cheese, and ham.
Scrambled egg?
No, like a sunny side up.
Like a fried egg.
Yeah.
Cheese and ham.
On sourdough.
On sourdough.
Yeah.
Interesting. Toasted sourdough, I take it.
Yeah.
Becky had 2 muffins. There we go.
Tommy Hack had tacos. Nice.
Tacos are always good. I like a good taco. By the way, my free stretch that I was going on lasted 5 days.
5 days.
Back off now. Back on. Back on now. Back on.
There you go.
But I was off for a couple days. We do have plenty to talk about today. By the way, we do have that interview with Cole Mathis. You're going to want to hear it. He's got an interesting story. He certainly has lots of talent. The reason the Cubs took him in the 50s in the draft, not 1950s, but in early second round. How about it? How's the sound now?
Awful. I'm trying to figure out. It's bad. Just keep talking and I don't know what to do.
I'll just keep... Anyways,
I don't know.
We're working on it, guys.
I don't know. Everything's plugged in. I hear them through the soundboard. You guys keep talking. You guys are on air.
We're still going. You guys can still hear us somewhat. Oh, they hear us enough to know that we had tacos. There we go. So Mr. Mohawk Timmy said, I had tacos. We're working on the audio, guys. So we're going to talk about Cole Mathis. We're going to talk about some of these debuts. Let's just get going on it. First off, the Canario trade. I'm curious what your thoughts are on Canario to the Mets for, drumroll please, cash considerations.
Well, my favorite part of the Alexander Canario era officially was the friends we made along the way, as always. Luke, I have lost count on the amount of uniforms with different numbers that's going to say cash considerations on the back.
Yeah. It's a jersey you've thought about buying.
Honestly, like that or players
just considerations.
Yeah, just considerations. It should just be like money signs.
Just considerations would be a funny jersey.
Yeah.
I think most people would get it.
Yeah, right. No, in all seriousness, like I said last week, I do not care that they traded Alexander Canario. Over the last year, I had viewed him as Nelson Velasquez.
Yeah.
Right? Was he part of a big trade? Yes. Could he have been better? Maybe that injury 3 years ago played a big part. did not force his way, in my opinion, into a spot to be looked at above Kevin Alcantara or OBC.
We hoped that Chris Bryant was going to turn into more than the guy that you would DFA. And
Sure.
another pitcher that may never develop.
Listen, the good news about the trade is that it's not like Chris Bryant did anything for the Giants.
Right. Well, obviously signing him would have been a bigger mistake.
Right now, it looks like a lose-lose of a trade. And all that aside, though, just look at it roster-wise, I don't really understand why anyone would be upset about moving on from him when you have all these other outfielders who I think have a higher upside, who have shown to be better. I'm just talking about prospects, at least. Hell, Kevin Alcantara, I just tweeted a quote that Jesse Rogers asked Greg Counsell in his media session today about Kevin Alcantara, and he's had a hot spring. He's been good in the minors. The Cubs clearly view him in a higher form than they do Alexander Canario, and I think he is more of a toolsy guy. That's just one guy. Owen Casey's another one. The frustration, like I said last week, is that you didn't move on earlier and you could have perhaps gotten more. The fact that cash considerations for this guy.
Nobody ever wants to hear considerations. I joked in our Slack, I said, I give buying eggs cash considerations these days. A carton of eggs is worth cash considerations. I'm more upset about, again, he didn't have options. It was surprising that they didn't let a guy who has at least power, shown some power, when they lack power, they could at least give him the spring. But whatever. Then they signed Travis Jankowski, who actually, did all right yesterday in his debut. But you start looking at his numbers, and I don't really see what the Cubs see there versus letting Canario hang around through the rest of camp. Like in 2018, Jankowski was a 1.3 F4 player. Okay, that's 2018. In 2023, he was a 1.4 F4. Last year, he was a 0.3, and there's a whole lot of less than 1 in his career. Are they hoping that he's going to go back to the 2023 numbers? Is that what they're hoping for, that it was just off? Because it wasn't like he didn't play. He played over 100 games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a ton about Travis Jankowski other than when we were at Country Club on opening day last year, he hit a homer off Alzolay.
Yeah.
But let's just be real about it. He's probably in the running to be that backup outfielder, like that fourth outfielder. And at this point in Jankowski's career, he's fine playing that role.
And maybe he's better defensively than Canario, and they're like, fine, that's fine.
I'm going to look that up right now.
But he's definitely older. He's in his 30s, whereas Canario's a little bit younger than that, obviously.
Well, and the thing is about about Canario too is Canario went to the Mets, and they have all kinds of dudes who are playing the outfield. What, Nimmo, Soto?
Yeah.
And who else am I missing?
It was just funny to watch people on sort of Mets Twitter reacting like, "Oh, this is amazing! I was hoping we were going to get him." Yeah. And I was like, "Well, I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but sure."
Well, no, it's adding depth for them, and if someone gets hurt, we get some. I get why people were excited about it. The guy hit 30-plus bombs in a minor league season before the big injury. Yeah. Is about Jankowski. The difference is that the guy has been in the league since 2015. We know what he is, right? And he's going to be in a backup role, and that's fine. With Texas last year in the outfield, Jankowski, 321 innings, 8 defensive runs saved, and 5 outs above average. Yes, and that's in the entire outfield. If you want to go right each position, he had 4 defensive runs.
But just
saved.
overall as an outfielder.
Yeah. In right field, he had 4 defensive runs saved. In center field, 1 defensive run saved. And in left field, he had 3 defensive runs saved. So it adds up to 8. Overall, looks like he's been a really solid defensive outfielder over the course of his career.
All right.
He's got, for his entire career total, 30 defensive runs saved. So, I think on defense is what they're looking at here.
Yeah.
Because again, it's backup. This guy will not start.
Correct. And a lot of people obviously still would have said Casey would have been the guy more likely to get playing time if something necessary became available. But at the moment, he's completely shut down with this groin injury after court. I also don't think they necessarily want Casey as a fourth outfielder right now. They want to keep him developing. So,
well, he's hurt too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Well, now it's not even a question. He's not even available. He's completely shut down. What did you make of the pitchers that made their debuts yesterday for the Cubs? Because it was a pretty good list, right? Like, each name on there, I thought, well, that's sort of interesting. Some were good, some were bad. The good, obviously, Matthew Boyd, 2 scoreless innings. And Brad Keller again, 2 flawless innings. That name that keeps popping up, Brad Keller. I think it's good that you see Boyd come out and, obviously, we know spring training, Cactus League stats mean nothing. One outing means nothing. But I like seeing that those 2 guys did well. Ben Brown did not. Okay, Ben Brown gave up 5 hits and gave up 2 earned runs in 2 innings. However, spin zone, as you like to say. While I'm super excited to see Ben Brown, and I think he could be an absolute X factor on this team from the pitching side of it, it's sort of like the Chris Bryant thing, his comment that we read yesterday. I think it's a win that he was just on the mound pitching. I'm just happy that we were able to see him game action. Yes, it was 5 hits. I'm just glad he was back on the mound and playing for the Cubs. That's step number 1.
And sporting a changeup.
And sporting to change up too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Ben Brown is one of those guys that when we're talking about results,
he's not someone that I'm like, obviously I don't want to go out there and give up 5 runs every outing, but I expect him to be better the next time out, and I expect to, see gradual improvement. It was his first in-game action since last summer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why that's a win.
Yeah,
this early in camp, a win that he was there.
And Sahab Sharma had a good article that he put out this morning about Ben Brown's injury and everything. And there's more clarity on like that entire thing related to his neck injury last year. He put it out this morning. There's a bunch of big medical words that I don't necessarily.
Shane's talking about how it was a non-cancerous tumor. Yeah, we knew there was a growth on his neck, and obviously, in my eyes, obviously it wasn't cancerous, or he wouldn't be back here pitching right away.
Right. So
it's all great news. I'm sure it was terrifying for him.
Sure. So again, it's good to see him out there. Brad Keller pitched again yesterday. Topped out 97. And
flawless, no hits, no walks,
2 clean innings,
high 90s.
I don't know how the Cubs want to use him. It sounds like, based off what Craig Counsell has said, they want him to be used as a starter. If this guy makes the team and he's anything like what we've seen in 4 innings, that could be just one of those incredible developmental or organizational development.
He's making the team if he pitches like he's pitched the first 4 innings.
Yeah, and he's one who needs to go out there and perform. It's not like what Colin Ray did the other day, or whatever Jameson Tyone does today. No one will care what those results are.
Oh, that's not true, Cody.
Well, no one in
all the crazy people. If he gives up a home run, will.
Well, I'm talking about people on the Cubs. I'm not talking about fans.
Hold on, I'm gonna try and fix this audio.
Are you just gonna unplug?
I'm just gonna unplug something, see if it works. Watch me. Did it fix it, everyone? But it's not the problem from yesterday. Sometimes I spray Windex on things and it gets better too. Little Windex. I like the Ben Brown thing. We could do an X Factor podcast, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about Michael Busch moving forward in the next segment. But on the pitching side, he's high on that list. If you want to just put pitching X factors for the Cubs this season, Ben Brown, yeah, sure, Brad Keller could be one. Could Boyd be high on that list? Yes, but I would think Ben Brown has a chance to be at the very top of that list.
Yeah.
If he can be the influx of youth and dependable and elite, that's the kind of thing that starts to turn the organization in the right direction. As much as signing Boyd, developing your own guy after a trade, that's the one for me.
Yeah, this trade for Ben Brown was for David Robertson. So the fact that we're sitting here talking about a guy you got for David Robertson, who has all this potential.
No offense.
Very exciting. His Fangraphs projections, and this can be a nice little segment. Fangraphs projections have him at 31 games, 3 starts, 45 innings, 26% K rate, and a 3.59 earned run average in 2025. I think, to go into the next segment after the ads, we have to acknowledge that projections are conservative, and I think these are off. So
we're going to get into it. We're going to take a look at Michael Busch moving forward. But first, a word from our great sponsors here at CHGO. Auto show deals are going on now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with huge auto show savings, like $11,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models. Or check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're always able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you're going to get a great deal. Plus, Ray's Price Promise lets you shop confidently because it's a guarantee of no add-ons, no hidden fees, no gimmicks, and means the price that you're going to pay is the one that you're hearing right here on the podcast. No changing, no stressful negotiating. The people at Ray Chevy have what you want, and they will get you in the right vehicle at the right price. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner this February at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. Don't miss their auto show sales event going on this month. Be the star of the show and take $11,000 off MSRP by shopping Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or RayChevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Our friends who are helping us out with our technical difficulties right now, they probably would need some cornbread hemp after this show because they're very stressed. And I know cornbread hemp will definitely be able to help them out in their stress. And I appreciate them doing everything they can to help us out right now. If you don't know what cornbread hemp is, it's America's first ever USDA organic CBD company. Their mission is to improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. You know, life, Luke, I know your life. Not as much.
Do you?
I
don't think you.
I have a good idea of what it is, and I know it's always crazy. It's just not lately. It's always crazy. You got 2 kids, right? And one thing that helps you unwind is probably cornbread chips and CBD gummies. All right. If you're looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, this isn't me calling you old, but I feel
that's
like
what you're hinting at. Go ahead.
I feel like you got a lot of those as you get older, right? If you have a lot of aches and discomfort, the CBD gummies from cornbread hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. I too am not as young as I once was. I'm 33, right? I care a lot about maintaining my physical and mental wellness.
Yeah,
right?
you're over the hill by this point.
Exactly, right? These gummies are a huge part of how I get through not just the day, but my week. All right, they become part of my routine. All right, so if you've tried everything under the sun for peace of mind, it sounds like it's time for you to try cornbread hips CBD gummies. If it's not, all right. So right now they're offering CHGO listeners. Listen to this, Luke. It's a great deal.
I got it.
30% off.
30%.
30% off.
How can they afford to do that?
I know, right? But you got to get there right now. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life. This is my life.
This is my life. We're working on the. We know we're having audio. We appreciate everybody in the live YouTube chat that's offering suggestions. But don't be mad at Niren for offering a suggestion. That's okay.
That's okay.
Barb wants us to move to Studio B.
Yeah, well,
Barb it's not available, Barb.
Barb needs to understand that's not how.
We've had a lot of people talking about the price of eggs this morning. It's a typical live YouTube chat. Price of eggs. The guy we want to talk about today, we're going to kind of look over the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to opening day at projections. Why? Because Jed Hoyer says our players need to exceed projections for us to be successful any season. In any given season, the number one thing is exceed projections. So, we're taking a look at Michael Busch. I think he's one of the more difficult ones on this team to really predict what he will be this season. Now, I know that people in the live YouTube chat will disagree. By the way, hit the like button for us. We'd appreciate it. I think he's very difficult to figure out because, number one, he was a rookie last year. And his rookie season, like many rookie seasons, was a roller coaster, right? He had some huge upside where you're like, wow, 5 homers in 5 games, homer in game after game after game. And I think I declared, what are we doing? We have our first baseman forever. And then things weren't as good later on. The one thing for me that was consistent, and it doesn't necessarily show up perfectly in things like F-WAR, but his defense was on the rise fairly consistently, I believe, all season. I think his defense got noticeably better to the point at where you were saying, this guy could win a Gold Glove at first base. And so that's the expectation going into this season for me, for him defensively, is that he's 1 or 2 or 3 in the National League in defense over at first base. That shouldn't change. It's the offense part you're not sure of. And when you go to FanGraphs, as you said, they're usually conservative, but they're a little bit down on Busch.
They are compared to last year.
Compared to last year, everything is down on Busch.
But he's off to a hot start this spring.
Well, 3-run homer yesterday.
Right.
3-run homer in the game yesterday. By the way, the Cubs are, in case you've missed it, 5-0, and they have never lost a game in 2025.
Yeah. So, Sean has it on the screen. This is what he's projected by, it looks like Zips or FanGraphs.
Yeah, this is FanGraphs.
Okay.
Same thing.
Oh,
Zips is FanGraphs projections.
Zippy FanGraphs is what we like to call it.
So 130 games, 240 batting average, a 327 on base percentage, and a 112 WRC plus, with a 1.9 FanGraphs WAR.
So 248 batting average down to 240. 335 over down to 327. 119 WRC plus down to 112. 2.3 WAR, which we all said, hey, that was pretty good for a rookie season. Down to 1.9. They're not massive slides. Notice that I can definitely affect the WAR. 152 games played, down to 130. Is this factoring in Justin Turner? Is that what's happening?
No, I think it's factoring in injury.
They're just thinking he's going to play less or more likely to have problem. I don't know.
Or maybe it is factoring in Turner, because I do think Turner could get more opportunities against lefties. But listening to Michael Busch in spring training so far, he's pretty motivated to try and improve against left-handed hitters. Like, he's not looking at it. And what else would you expect the guy to say?
Right, yeah.
But
Shane says factoring in the weather. Oh no, please don't make me talk about the weather anymore. Please, don't make me talk about the weather.
I'll say this, like, it's cool to listen to Busch talk about how he had it on muscle. If you watch the broadcast on Sunday, it was Boog and JD, they had Busch in, like, from the dugout, and he talked about building muscle, I believe, with those guys, and, you know, as much as I think me and you sat here this offseason and complained about how Jed played on the weather for a lot of the offense not living up to what he hoped, I do think that whenever the entire ballpark plays in the bottom 5 in terms of offense, and we watched other teams come into Wrigley and they struggled as well, I'm not saying I'm putting it all in on why the offense last year struggled, but I am saying that we can confidently, I think in some form of confidence say that perhaps some guys hit a couple warning tracks that you're like, man, I thought that would have gone out if the wind was blowing out, or if it wasn't blowing in, all right?
Doesn't the wind blow in every stadium that's outside?
Listen,
I know. Okay, don't get me started.
Remember when the Yankees came to town?
Yeah.
And Juan Soto and
Yeah,
Aaron Judge did
yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
I'm just.
Okay.
I also saw those same two guys. I saw Aaron Judge and Juan Soto hitting home runs in batting practice that reminded me of Sammy Sosa, who, by the way, apparently is at spring training today.
Again, I agree with you. Like, I don't want Jed to say, like, to blame the weather for the offense doing what it did.
Right.
But I do think that when you look at it as from a whole, like, there is some sort of line that you can put in, right? So all I'm saying is, to bring it around, is that perhaps some of Michael Busch's numbers could have been better, at least in the home run department last year,
if maybe there were less days of the wind blowing out. All right. I'm not saying that the numbers would have been drastically different. I'm not saying that he would have hit 30 bombs.
Right.
He hit 21. And he certainly had ups and he certainly had downs, and it was a streaky season. It felt like a roller coaster watching him at times. That April was awesome. That May was terrible. He was better in June. Going into the All-Star break in July, he was really solid. Then kind of fell off in the beginning of the second half. And I don't remember his September exactly, but in general, his second half of the season wasn't as good as his first half, right? So you're looking for more consistency out of Michael Busch this year, no doubt. It's 1 year one full year in the majors under the hood for him. He saw 567 plate appearances. So that's
pretty
experience.
good chunk.
That's
a good chunk of
experience that he
experience.
needed. And now you're hoping in year two, in a sophomore season, that maybe he finds a little bit more consistency. That maybe
Audio's fine. They're saying, we're back, baby. We're back. We're
Okay.
back, baby. Silky, smooth voice of Cody Delmendo.
Let's go. All right. Shout out to Jake and Sean
think
and Tony
Jake
for helping
stuck
us.
his finger in a socket. I don't know exactly what happened,
It's still in
but
there.
his hair's now
Just leave it
standing.
there. and shout out to Katie.
Katie Duffy did it.
Let's
Katie
go.
stuck her finger in the socket? Yes.
So to bring it all around again, like, I just think that there is reason for optimism for Michael Busch in year two. I also think that there's reason to have a little pessimism too, because it is just 1 year.
Right. So let me ask you this. Let's use Delmendo bucks to really find out what you think.
Delmendo bucks.
Yeah, we're going to use your cash. We're at Circa, and we're on the app, and let's say the home run total for a Michael Busch is at, what did he hit last year, 21?
21.
Let's put it at 21. Mm-hmm. You're taking the over or you're taking the under on Michael Busch?
Well, you know me, I'm a noted optimist. And I do think that the weather at Wrigley will play more neutral this year.
And you like what you saw yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's spring training, but I just think that these projections in general from Fangraphs on Busch are way off. Like, if you want my honest opinion, I think they're way off. I'm not saying
they're way too low.
Yes. I'm not talking about just home runs. I'm talking about
Sure, I know.
I'm talking about
WRC plus batting average.
Yeah,
WAR.
like, to go from I guess 119 to 112 isn't necessarily a big difference, but like, I just don't see how he.
All right, if he was a 2.3 WAR last year and Circa has the line at 2.3, would you go over or under on Michael Busch for WAR this year at 2.3?
I'd go over because I think he can win. I think he can win a Gold Glove this year. But again, I'm not saying he's going to have some. I'm not saying he's going to be like a 4-win player. I'm saying that
he's not going to be in the MVP hunt.
I think he can take gradual steps in improvement. My big thing for Busch this year is that hopefully the home runs go up if the K rate stays the same. He struck out 28% of his at-bats last year, or plate appearances. If you're going to strike out 28% of your plate appearances, you got to hit more than 21 homers. That's just a fact of the matter, man. So I'm hopeful that he finds himself somewhere between the 25 to 30 home run range, and he's still walking somewhere between 10 and 11%, and his isolated power is above league average like it is last year. And maybe that weighted on base average is a little bit higher. 336 last year maybe can be around 350. I think 119 WRC plus last year is fine, but if somewhere in the 120s would be awesome.
I'm the sun and the weather and what I saw yesterday has me feeling optimistic. I'm going to say he's more than a 3-WAR player this year. Okay. That's just the way I'm starting to feel about Michael Busch. By the way, Anthony in the chat says 3.2 is where he's going.
Let's go. All right.
All right, we're on the same train.
For what it's worth, and this is kind of like what kind of triggered this conversation. I listened to the Just Baseball podcast yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Jack McMullen, the new voice of the Marlins, and Peter Appel? When they were talking about projections are all across the league, and when they got to the Cubs and they looked at Michael Busch's, they said that these are just straight up wrong. Like they also believe. So like two guys who are more objective watching the entire league even believe that. So, again, that Michael Busch wasn't the only player around the league. They felt that about either. But I thought it was a good exercise to go So
through. We're not being homers here.
I don't think we're being homers. Like I just think that these projections, if these projections are just because they have him playing 130 games, which are 22 games less than last year, then fine. But I don't know what they're factoring in there. Are they factoring in that they think Busch is only going to face right-handed pitching? Because if so, then I guess that makes sense. Are they factoring injury? He played 152 games last year. He was pretty healthy last year. So I guess if that 22 less games means less homers, the streakiness of him continues, perhaps like that these projections are close. But
all right,
I expect him to play more than 130 games.
We got to get a word from our sponsors in real quick. We'll talk more about it in a second. But first, Hooters. Hot wings, cold beer, and experience like no other. Hey, this is the last day this month for you to make wings even more important than they are in your life. Hooters is donating a portion of chicken wing sales to Holy Family Schools, helping fund tuition, books, classroom supplies, and more for kids in under-resourced communities. With the support of their Chicagoland Hooters family, they've raised over $1 million since 1992, so let's keep it going. Last day for this because kids can't fly without wings. Always been a big fan of the honey barbecue, Then they were here last week, and they dropped off some of the honey Thai chili pepper.
Oh, yeah.
One word, paradise. Paradise. Cheer on your favorite teams right now from any of their 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations: Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park. Drive by the one near O'Hare, Schaumburg, Wells Street, Orland Park, you name it, go. You can even order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com.
Well, maybe this would be a pre or a post game thing you could do after a Cubs game, but depending on whatever time you decide to go to Hooters, you got to go on game time if you're gonna go to Hooters after the game, or you know what I mean, or if you're gonna go to Hooters before the game.
Cody, you really commit to the bit of trying to weave the two ads together.
I do.
He's a mesher.
It's what I do.
You don't need to do that,
but I want.
He's a blender.
It's what I do.
You can have Hooters one day and use game time the next.
There's always
Fair
a
enough.
transition.
I hang out with Luke Stuckmeyer too much. Anyway, you could go on game time before or after you go to Hooters, right? Because why wouldn't you? Because they give you the best value on tickets, Sean. The best value, all right? They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value, all right? What do we got coming up? We got spring training games, right?
Yeah.
I have friends going out to spring training.
You're going.
I'm going to spring
training. What do you
training.
mean? You're going.
I know I'm getting those tickets to the 4 games I get to go to on game time. All right. And I will get that ticket. I will buy it when I get to Sloan Park because, again, the longer you wait, the better value you're going to get.
It's the better deals.
Right? So if you're heading out to Arizona this spring, I mean, game time's the place to get those tickets at a very affordable price. All right. I already told you about Game Time Picks. They also have the all-in pricing. I stress this a lot. No one hates a bait and switch like Luke Stuckmeyer, all right? When you toggle that
Really
feature on Game Time, it shows the total up front. So there's no surprise fees at checkout. I'm telling you, you'll feel better about it because I hate a bait and switch. It's not just Luke, all right? They have seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. I suggest the lawn. Yeah, when you go to Sloan Park, I suggest sitting on the lawn. It's the best spot.
Get some rays.
Yeah, get that sun.
Soak in the vitamin D.
Absolutely, right? And then they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, right? And they have game time ticket coverage as well, which are your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. All right, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
To wrap up the Michael Busch conversation, where we're talking about his projections are all down, according to Fangraphs or Zips, whatever you want to refer to it as, they're all down for this season compared to his rookie season last year. Not a ton, but they're down. And a lot of people in the YouTube chat are wondering what I was wondering. Does any of this have to do with Justin Turner being on the team and the fact that he didn't hit lefties very well last year, and so Turner would be expected to get some serious playing time at first base if healthy, even though he's 40, because he's a professional hitter. And he looked awfully good in his debut. When we had the audio problems earlier in the show, by the way, Barb, thank you for the prayer. It worked instantly.
Thanks.
Barb prayed, and the next thing we knew,
we were there.
Boom.
We
The mic was working perfectly. Sean, do we have Craig Counsell from Marquee?
We do. We also have a super chat from Alex FL MTL that says, "Good job, guys." And
Hell
it's
yeah.
€2 or 2 sterling pound silver or whatever.
Wow.
It's European. You want to hear from Craig Counsell?
Let's hear from Craig Counsell. He's talking about Turner, who went 2 for 2 with a walk in his Cubs Cactus League debut.
You know, the thing you learn quickly about being around Justin is that he has a very advanced feel for the game. I mean, he is just seeing things. He's kind of seeing things before most guys are seeing them. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with going 2 for 2 yesterday, but that's what his kind of one of his great tools is, frankly, is just how he's able to see the game, and I think it. Probably in the end, it's one of those things that allows him to make adjustments quicker during the season, it's fun to watch him hit. It's a little different, right? It looks a little different the way he kind of stands up there, and but he's clearly got really good. He's worked really hard at creating a wonderful bat path, and he's got good strike zones at discipline, and it adds up to being a good offensive player.
In-depth answer from Craig Counsell. Marquee put that on their Twitter page, so if you want to see it, that's where it's at. They also post a lot of their videos on YouTube, and that 360 show they do is great for any Cubs fan because you get to really follow what's going on visually out at Sloan Park. I can't decide if everybody's saying nice things about Justin Turner because really it's the truth, and he really is. He knows, he sees things that nobody else sees, and he's a veteran, and he's this guy, and he's going to really help this team. Like, I do buy some of that, or are they just blowing a little smoke right now? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I hope he still looks as good as Justin Turner of the Dodgers.
I'll just say that, like, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily the Cubs, but like a lot of the players, like Ian Happ quoted, "I'm pumped to play with Justin
I mean, they're
Turner."
Waxing poetic about him.
Yeah.
Nico Horner's like, that's one of my favorite players to watch hit.
Right.
I was like, in all of baseball.
Right. And I mean, he had a great run with the Dodgers. He had a great run with the Dodgers, right?
He did.
But
to be perfectly honest and fair, if Juan Soto were up and Turner were up, I would watch the Juan Soto at bat.
Everyone would.
Okay,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it doesn't matter who you're saying.
Yes, okay.
Next to Juan Soto, outside of Aaron Judge or Ohtani.
I can't remember the last time I've heard this many people saying this many nice things about one guy who obviously isn't going to be here super long.
I think, and it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily means like what they're saying is necessarily pointed at like results. At least recently, I think it's just like they're very impressed by the career he has put together. I mean, again, he is 40 years old, and he had a 117, 118 WRC plus last year. It's not like he fell off.
It's not a Hall of Famer,
and then
but he's
revived
a
his career or anything. Yeah. He's a really good baseball player. I would probably. I mean, I don't have his career numbers in front of me. I could look them up, but off the top of my head, I would say he'd probably go in the Hall of Very Good. Right?
Yeah,
very good baseball player over the course of time. And I think in the back half of his career now, that power has kind of decreased. He still remained a really good hitter. He still puts the ball in play. He doesn't strike out a ton, right? Like I think when you're talking about things like that, that's what the players and what Craig Counsell's talking about. Like, you can't teach that. Some guys just can figure that out, you know?
I
guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just way off.
Anyways, I'm not even bringing it up.
What were you going to say?
I was trying to think back when they won the World Series, and it was, it was the COVID World Series. Am I remembering correctly that he was the guy that had COVID and wasn't allowed on the field, and people were just outraged that when they won, he was out there outside celebrating and all the celebrations? Man, that seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. He took a lot of heat for that.
Oh, I mean, a lot.
Yeah. And
well, I mean, it's different. We know more about COVID than we did before, especially being outside.
I'll just be honest and say when it happened, I was like, I don't really blame him, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, it's like he just won the World Series. That's just me, though. You know,
right?
Like, it's I understood.
But it was interesting because we were at a time
backlash.
where some people were like, "Oh, he's risking all these people's lives by going in that clubhouse if he has serious COVID."
Yeah.
But it was.
Man, it does seem like a long time.
What a crazy world that. I mean,
yeah.
So, anyways, we're kind of zooming out a little bit now, right? We've talked about Michael Busch and some of the performances yesterday. We had a chance after the show yesterday to talk to a Cubs prospect. He's in Arizona, and we're maybe zooming out a little bit further. Is he like a top 100 prospect yet? No, but he's somebody to definitely keep an eye on. Here's our chat with Cole Mathis yesterday afternoon. Okay, here is a name and a player that you're going to want to remember for future Cubs baseball. Cole Mathis joins us. Cole, first of all, really nice to meet you. Second of all, you were a very high pick of the Cubs, an early pick, right? Mm-hmm. And then right away you go from second round pick, 54 overall, and it's unfortunately straight to Tommy John surgery, right? It's like that's not the way I assume you wanted to start your professional baseball career.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not ideal to start it, right into an injury. But we thought of the best path to go ahead and get that done, and then didn't really miss much time with it being the end of the season last year. So really just getting ready for the season this year.
When how's the rehab been? Like, I know you're in Arizona, but when do you feel like you'll be able to get in, I guess, make your Cubs professional debut?
Yeah, I mean, rehab's been really good. We have a really good athletic training staff out here, and it's been going smooth. Hitting's been feeling really good, and so. Throw-ins, just falling behind. Throw-ins a very long process with Tommy John surgery. So, but the hitting's been feeling really good, and then hopefully get back into it this spring training, and then not miss that much time, in the season.
Awesome.
So does that mean you're kind of thinking a full recovery before you get back, or are we talking about something like I know you were a two-way player in college and a pitcher, and we just watched Ohtani go through the crazy process of being able to play baseball coming off of Tommy John. Is that the other path where you could DH for a year and try and get all the hitting in until you're able to play first or third or wherever you might land in Major League Baseball?
The plan's to just get me back. I'd say the priority right now is to get me back hitting, and then DH as long as I can with that, and then hopefully sometime throughout the season have the arm strength back to be able to play a position, whether it be third or first.
Which position would you rather play right now?
Definitely third. I enjoy. You definitely see more highlights over there at third base, and so I always love making strong throws after a diamond play or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what this has been like. I mean, obviously physically this can't be very fun, rehabbing to try and get back to being a professional baseball player, mentally, how difficult has this been? What are the hurdles been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, physically, it's about as tough as it gets as far as an injury's concerned. But mentally, it's been good. My wife has been out here, so that's been really has made it more enjoyable and just a lot better mentally, emotionally, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's been good. We've got other guys that are going through the same exact thing, so it's created a good little group that we've kind of be able to bounce stuff off of if we need to.
Have you basically been in Arizona since all of this transpired with the injury and everything, rehabbing? Is that where you've basically been this entire time?
Yeah, I've been out here basically through the dead period, and then went home for Christmas and New Year's, and then came right back out here for early spring training camp. And so, yeah, just, spending a lot of time out here, but also spending a lot of time with our staff and just getting to know them better.
Here's another follow-up with that then. You haven't got to play any games yet, but you've obviously gotten to know people within the organization. Who are some guys that maybe you knew but when you got drafted that were within the Cubs organization, or who you've created relationships already with that you feel really comfortable around?
Yeah, I'd say as far as big leaguers are concerned, I grew up in Georgia, and so Dansby Swanson was definitely a big name that I knew with the Cubs. So it's cool just seeing him around the complex right now during spring training, and then I'd say as far as like rehab goes, right now I've been doing some smaller stuff with Jefferson Rojas, who's one of our prospects, and then I'd say overall just being around like guys like Owen Casey and Matt Shaw, who are still in the minor leagues, but they've got seasons under their belt, and just learning from guys that just seeing levels, really just like you've got your big league guys, and then the top prospect guys are just really cool, just to see the different levels, but then also what they've learned in their short amount of minor league time.
Saw the picture, I think it was on Instagram, you posted in front of Wrigley Field. You just had your surgery, Dr. Grislow, and kind of thanked him. Had you been to Wrigley Field before? Like, what's your Wrigley/Chicago experience like at this point in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't been out of the Southeast much. So no, I've never been to Chicago before that. But yeah, I mean, I just, it's one of those fields you see. I mean, you can be in any town and you see a picture of Wrigley Field. It's like just one of those iconic baseball fields that you see. So it was just really cool to see that in person. And then eventually I was able to take a tour there towards the end of the season. So that was really cool. Just seeing the field, seeing the ivy in person, that was really cool.
Who was your favorite player growing up? You said you're from Georgia, but I'm assuming maybe it's a Braves player. But any particular Cub that maybe you remember watched growing up that you really kind of latched onto?
Yeah, I mean, my all-time favorite player is Chipper Jones. Especially he was third base with the Braves at the end of his career when I was growing up. But I'd say as far as Cubs go, I just remember, big, really liked like Kyle Schwarber, Chris Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, like that whole group was kind of like right when, they won the World Series, like right when I was getting into high school. And so that was kind of like, once I got more serious about baseball, they were like the core group. So that was really cool. And then they became some of my favorites to watch as far as Cubs go.
Those would be good names to mention. That would be a good answer to all the Chicago media someday. Hey, your dad was also a baseball player in the Cleveland organization. Is that right? And how has he helped you, or what has he meant to your process here? Whether it's the injury recovery or just even pitching, for college or high school, wherever it might be. How has your dad been involved in this?
Oh yeah, I mean he's done everything. He's kind of just had like a pitching machine arm. Just unlimited throws, however many I need. And so yeah, it's been really nice. Especially he played pro ball, so he knows all the ins and outs of that. And yeah, I mean when I was pitching, he was a big coach with that and mentor with that, but also he taught me how to think like a pitcher. And so while I'm able to hit, I know a little bit of like how the pitcher's trying to get me out, stuff like that. And so yeah, even now, like he's been able to share his experiences in pro ball, kind of get me ready for my first full season.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was curious about the whole process of being a two-way player. And I guess people didn't even think about it. I mean, obviously, when you're young, lots of kids pitch and play a position. But in college, that's way more rare. And in Major League Baseball, it's like Ohtani, Were you disappointed that the Cubs right away were like hitter? Because obviously they're clearly very excited about the way you can hit a baseball. Would you have liked to pursue that at one point? Or did you realize that, likely I'm going to have to make a decision here or a team's going to make it for me?
I mean, yeah, I'd say, being a two-way in college, you always hope to be able to do both at the next level. But I think realistically, I knew that, one had to come to an end if I wanted to actually, pursue a big league career. And so, yeah, I think while I had to, be okay with giving it up, it's something that I'm excited to finally focus on one, and put all my effort into hitting and just see where that leads me.
Yeah.
Do you have a goal for this year? Like, is it games at South Bend or an amount of games, or like if you put that ahead of you and said this is the carrot, this is where I'm trying to get to this year, what would be that end spot?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have I wouldn't say I have like a goal set yet. I'd say probably first half of the season, I'll have to like split it up that way. Kind of with it, you might have to really just see how it goes, and then just making adjustments off that, and then basically I'd probably have to set goals for the second half based on what I learned from the first half.
That sounds really hard to do, because like if I'm you right now, like I'm just ready to get back on the field and like take some hacks, dude. Like I'm someone, I didn't play at your level, even in college or anything like that. But anytime I felt like I would get hurt, and when I was in high school playing any sport, I was always finding myself rushing to get back, and like you have these aspirations to want to, come back and be who you were and stuff. And like these college numbers are no joke. And so like, I feel like for what you just said, it feels like you're trying to remember in some form that, you got to, there's a process to this. So maybe that's a sign of maturity that maybe I never had or still don't have.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where I played basically all of the college season hurt last year. And so now I know what it feels like to, have to, or at least be expected to perform your best and not feel your best. So at least for now, I'm kind of at the point where I want to at least slowly go into getting to my best before I step back on there.
Yeah.
When do you first remember the injury? When do you remember feeling it? Like, was there a point where you were like, that's not right and this isn't good?
Yeah, it was actually before the season, back in before the college season. I threw a pitch and I felt something not right, felt a pop. And so, yeah, that's kind of what it was. And then we just had to, plans change and you just got to, adjust to it. And so that's what we decided to do. Yeah.
Well, man, we are excited to watch your progress over the years or year or whatever it might be. And we're excited for your future. Cubs fans may not know a whole lot about you yet, other than when you were drafted, they were like, ooh, that's high. And they're really excited. You see all the quotes about, we love this guy as a hitter. So we're excited. We're hoping everything goes well for you. And we want to wish you luck as this season gets started.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I got one more question.
Here we go.
This is related. Like we mentioned Wrigley Field and stuff. Yeah. So you came to Chicago. Like, where did you go to eat? I feel like this is a great way to end it. Like, what's the food that you had when you were here?
We made sure to, what is it called? Giordano's? Is that?
Yeah, you did the deep dish.
Did the deep dish?
With we had to get the deep dish, pizza, and then we went to the Harry Carey's restaurant.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, man.
Well,
you're going to like the food here.
I can certainly send you a list one day of some of the best spots you can get once you get to the majors, man. Because, like I said, these numbers in college are no joke. So I'm rooting for you to grow through the Cubs system and continue to, help this new wave of young players coming through the Cubs farm.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Cole Mathis. By the way, we're back in Studio A for everybody that thought we were jumping back and forth. No, that was recorded yesterday after the show.
Yeah, Becky.
I think that what's important out of that to note just about Cole Mathis in general is where he was talking about when the injury happened. That means we now have an answer. The Cubs knew about the Tommy John surgery and the elbow injury before they drafted him, and they liked his hitting enough to take him with a second-round pick, even though they knew he was likely going for Tommy John surgery as soon as the college season ended. So that's pretty high praise of that bat.
My biggest takeaway to go with that is that he said he wants to play third base.
Yeah.
And listen, I am as high on Matt Shaw as anyone, but Nico Horner has 2 years left to control. And if Cole Mathis comes back and he has a good and
whatever portion of a season he can play,
and we start seeing some sort of progression, and the prospect nerds start gushing about this guy. I'm just saying, maybe he's a guy who could play third base for the Chicago Cubs one day. That's what he wants to do, at least. So we'll see.
Well, he wants to be Chipper Jones.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't mind Chipper Jones, whether that Chipper Jones is named Matt Shaw or Cole Mathis.
Right. So I think he's a very interesting guy, and I feel like no one's talking about him because obviously he hasn't played, and he didn't have the run that Cam Smith had in the minors after he got drafted last year, right? So it'll be someone that we should certainly pay attention to this year.
Check in on again before the maybe mid-season. We check in and see, right, where are things at now with Cole Mathis. Yeah. And anyways, an interesting guy, and we appreciate his time and wish him luck this season. I see everybody in the chat is all fired up. Sammy shown in the game today on marquee in the dugout shaking hands. He's just grabbing players, turning them around. They might not even want to turn around, and Sammy's flipping them around and shaking their hand and making a big show of the whole thing. What value do you put in having Sammy Sosa at spring training, other than obviously there's a portion of fans that are going to just eat that up?
Yeah. I mean, when we were watching the interview, I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw that he was talking hitting with like Kevin Alcantara.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's a very valuable asset to young players, just like how, Fergie Jenkins and Rick Sutcliffe are out there.
I love this about the Cubs, that the old players all want to be there and all want to pass it on to the next group. That goes back to Ernie Banks wanting to be at spring training. It goes back to Santo. It goes Billy Williams, Fergie being there. Rick Sutcliffe has returned to the organization and wants to be there. I remember Rick Sutcliffe pointing out that trading Dylan Cease was concerning to him because he had seen Cease in the organization. Rhino's there all the time. Mark Grace was there recently. Sean Dunston. I don't know if it totally changes a player's path, but it's a nice resource to have, and different players will connect with different prospects and young players. For instance, Alcantara. Alcantara may connect with Sammy Sosa on something that he wouldn't connect with Mark Grace about.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's another reason why I love Sammy coming back. Is the message going to be the same from everybody? No, it's not, but it's somebody they can ask something to, no matter how long ago, some of those things still translate. And before the show, I was going to talk about how today would have been the 85th birthday for Ron Santo, rest in peace. Santo was always around the ballpark, always wanted to talk to players about their at-bats and those things, and I did find value in it. And I'll tell you this, not just value in the baseball players. As a young reporter, one of the things I always would seek out at the ballpark, and today cherish, is the time I had to sit in that dugout before games, before a pregame show or the start of a Cubs broadcast on then Comcast Sportsnet, was to sit and talk when everybody else would leave and they'd go do their work on the field. I'm the only guy sitting in the dugout and guys kind of walk in, was to be able to sit with Ron Santo or sit with Billy Williams or Fergie or whoever it might be. And they were always willing to talk baseball at whatever depth you wanted to talk about it. And that's when you would see Santo talk to a player. Hey, big guy. Everybody was big guy, buddy boy, right? But they all loved him and they all wanted to talk to him. And even though at times some of the stuff he would say was crazy, it was fun to watch him also give real advice to players. And so for that reason, I am glad to see Sammy there.
Yeah. Yeah, rip Ron Santo. Deserved to be in the Hall of Fame when he was
alive.
Man,
happy birthday. 85.
Happy birthday. Yeah. 85.
He would have been 85 today.
Yeah, I guess the last thing related to Sammy being there and being able to, talk with players. Like, I was watching Marquee the other day. It was like right after the game. I just hadn't changed the channel. And they put on an interview that Andy Martinez did with James Triantos. And they talked about how James Triantos got to talk to Ken Griffey Jr. at the Futures game last year.
That's cool.
And they were showing clips of that happening. And so it's just, I think when I think about it and how much importance it goes into it, I think about how when I got this job and I talked to you for the first time, or when I talked to
come on. You were like, who is that guy?
Well,
why is he wearing a mask and sunglasses?
You were wearing a mask that day.
It was the paparazzi that followed me into the building.
But the moment I realized it was you, I was like, oh my God. All right. So
come on.
It's not just you, it's like Adam Hogue and some of these guys who have been in the industry for a long time.
That I understand.
It's more about just learning how you guys got here and stuff. And so it's done in all forms of whatever your career is. And we're talking about baseball players talking to Hall of Famers and Cubs legends and stuff like that. So I do think, like you said, there's a lot of importance that goes into it, and I think they have a big influence on a lot of those young players. So I'm happy to see, not only as a fan, to just see Sammy at Cubs spring training wearing the baby blue spring training hat and wearing the pants and everything. Like, it's awesome to see, but also I really do think there's a lot of value in him being there as an influence for a lot of those players.
Barb mentioned Santo's funeral, which I remember just standing out in the pouring rain, but that was for the wake the day before, I think. But it also goes two ways, right? Like, Sammy's talking to guys about hitting, but he can also talk to the pitchers. I remember nobody was closer to Ron Santo than Kerry Wood.
Oh, okay.
And that was a close relationship, even though they were two totally different types of players. Anyways, we're back at 1:30 tomorrow, live right here. Make sure you hit the like button on the way
live
out.
And with sound.
And with sound. We appreciate everybody that stuck with us through the audio problems at the beginning. Hopefully, if you're listening to this in podcast form, you don't have any of those issues anyways. But thank you for listening. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.